everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com back with more sick wrestling news. Tom Campbell has already done a news video earlier today, but I am back with the second installment of delectable, delicious wrestling news. So without any further ado, let's take a look at those headlines. First of all, Seth Rollins has answered some criticism of the recent eye for an eye match against Rey Mysterio. Next up, All Elite Wrestling have announced that a training school is going to be opening in the near future. And finally, we take a look at the reason behind a certain Raw Superstar's recent absence. So first of all, let's all cast our minds back not too far to the horror show at Extreme Rules, where one of the big horror show matches on the card was, of course, the eye for an eye match between Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins. Rollins, of course, won the match, and Rey Mysterio, his eye came out. It did. And Rollins was speaking to TalkSport recently, to Alex McCarthy of TalkSport, and talked about his process behind researching the match, behind carrying out the match, and also he addressed criticism regarding the finish of the match, which many people thought kinda was a bit silly. So in response to the question, did the finish handicap the match, Rollins said, at the end of the day, was it ideal? No. Did it catch people's attention? Sure. It ended up on TMZ. He goes on to say, I think we sort of accomplished what wrestling wants to accomplish, and that is we told a very interesting story, and there was some outside interest in the finish, even though it was very weird, and that's okay. He continues, I think pro wrestling can just be one-on-one, hold-for-hold wrestling, or it can be storytelling like any other form of television, and I think that when you start to look at it too critically, especially stuff like that, the latter sort of stuff, to me, it reeks of 2020 trying to pick everything apart. He then compared it to AEW's more outlandish matches in recent months, saying if you like the Lake of Reincarnation in AEW, but you hate the eye for an eye match, then where are we really at here? Rollins also talks in this interview about his research for the match, saying that he watched a lot of First Blood matches beforehand because he'd never done, well, no one had ever done an eye for an eye match before, at least that I know of, and that he thought that was the closest comparable thing, and also that he's been familiar with Rey Mysterio's style of matches for years, having watched loads of them in the past. But Rollins refuted some claims that Vince McMahon had a heavy role in the layout of the match and also had a final decision on the way the finish was carried out. That was reported in the aftermath of Extreme Rules, but Rollins says it wasn't quite true. Seth says that there were indeed multiple finishes planned, but said that Vince played next to no role in the actual match. He says a lot of the time Vince says, here's what we want to do, and he gives us the ball and lets us figure out how to take it to the end zone. Again, when the idea was presented to me, I was aghast. I thought it was ridiculous and a bit of a joke, but the more I thought about it and the more it came to pass, I was like, okay, this will be different. Rollins says that Vince really wasn't as hands-on as people think with that match, saying that it was 99% himself, Rey Mysterio, and Jamie Noble in the producer role. Next up, let's talk about news that we received personally, because Tom Campbell has done an interview with Gallows and Anderson, which you can find on the Cultaholic podcast feed, on Acast or on Spotify, wherever you go for your lovely podcasts. And honestly, this news was an answer to a question that I submitted to Tom, which he then asked them. So basically, I have sourced this news myself. I'm just saying, I'm not showing off, I'm just saying. And my question was, would you guys ever think about rejoining the Bullet Club? Are you keen to go back to New Japan and maybe do that? And here's what they said. First of all, Carl Anderson said, we're proud of what we did with Bullet Club, like being the originators of it and being the originals that got it into America and all over the world because Bullet Club was a hot thing. There's such a great story that you can tell with Bullet Club, but do we go back? Do we join the Bullet Club? Do we not join the Bullet Club? There are so many layers you could tell to that story. He goes on, and I think now, no matter what, Gallows and Anderson, we're not the sort of guys that are going to fall in line. We look at ourselves as leaders no matter what, and wherever we go, we want to lead and we want to be at the front and at the top of the card, where we believe we should be. And after Slammiversary, I think we proved that. And I think if we go back to the Bullet Club, it's going to be in a very high position, and there's just such a great story that could be told. And we're looking forward to seeing what happens. Very interesting stuff there. And because Tom's a great interviewer and just a fun guy, he asked them who would be in their dream Bullet Club lineup. Ooh, very interesting stuff there. So Gallows said you can start with some OG Bullet Club guys, us, AJ, Finn, maybe Hall and Nash, maybe Stone Cold, maybe Heath, he says, because he's sitting right next to me and he's fun to party with. And Carl Anderson chimed in and said, no matter what, with the Bullet Club, you have to include the Young Bucks because they had such an awesome following that they brought from Ring of Honor when Ring of Honor was really hot. And they brought those fans, the Young Bucks brand, to the Bullet Club and helped to even take it to a different level. And I think the Young Bucks, no matter what, in any generation, are a prize piece, baby. They're a lot cooler when they say it than I am. But to hear them say it and to hear the full interview, check out Tom's interview with them on the Cultaholic podcast feed on Spotify or Acast. Do check it out, really interesting stuff said. Next up, fans of Rusev or Miro will know that he is now a pretty big star on Twitch. He's been streaming a lot since being released from WWE and has basically been very entertaining, and also has been giving a little bit of an insight into the behind the scenes world of WWE, telling some hilarious stories, giving a bit of an insight into the process of putting together various matches, and generally just being very entertaining and informative. And then he got banned. Then Miro, or Rusev, got banned from Twitch and tweeted saying, "Sorry guys, I was too sexy for Twitch." And yeah, I don't know too much about the ban. Apparently it was only a one-day ban, because in the tweet he also said, "I'll see you tomorrow." So hopefully he's not gone from the platform for too long, because, you know, he's really entertaining and good and informative, and I like him. Now, I'm not too familiar with the world of Twitch streaming, although myself and Owen do a Football Manager stream every Wednesday at twitch.com/Cultaholic, check it out. But I do know that Twitch does try and clamp down on adult content, and one of the current rules is that you're not allowed to wear swimsuits on the channel unless you're in a setting where a bathing suit would be appropriate. And Lana appeared, or CJ Perry appeared on the stream next to Rusev wearing a bathing suit while he was just playing FIFA. And while you could probably rightly argue that Lana wasn't wearing anything too ridiculous or, you know, exposing herself or anything like that, I guess if you follow the letter of those Twitch laws, then she was wearing a bikini in the house, not near a pool or anything. I don't know, it's a weird one. I'm glad that the Twitch ban seems to only be one day, because it would seem ridiculous to chuck Rusev off the platform for just that. But at the same time, I think if you haven't checked out the Twitch streams, you probably should, because they are quite good. But then Rusev also did recently say, and I think Tom mentioned this in his news video, that he's done with wrestling and he's just going to be a Twitch streamer from now on. And honestly, as much as I've just hyped up his Twitch streams there, I'd love to see him wrestle again. I hope he was just joking, but we don't quite know yet. Next up, let's read out a bit of an AEW press release regarding an opening of a training camp in the near future. In fact, on Monday, the 21st of September. The press release says, starting on September 21st, the inaugural class of 25 aspiring male and female wrestlers will experience the unparalleled 3-month curriculum at the world-class Nightmare Factory facility in Norcross, Georgia. There's a bit of a description here of the Nightmare Factory facility, which encompasses 43,000 square feet. It includes 4 wrestling rings and an Olympic-style weight room. And also, AEW filmed several closed-set Dynamite shows at the Nightmare Factory earlier this year. So it's a facility that's very much built for purpose. The curriculum is designed by head trainers Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall, and it's a rolling curriculum that incorporates programming never before presented in a wrestling school. In addition to customized workouts and fitness regimes, students will engage with prominent nutrition counselor Carolyn Fazio to develop meal plans and participate in exclusive seminars on topics such as HD makeup, the history of American wrestling, and WrestleNomics, an in-depth look at the past and present of the wrestling economy. So it sounds like there that basically it's not just, you know, about working out and learning how to wrestle, but also learning the history and the background of wrestling, which is quite an interesting angle to take. Cody also spoke about how throughout his career he's been lucky enough to have the best trainers because of his background, and he feels obliged to pass on such quality experience to the new generation. Apparently, aspiring wrestlers can apply for the first Nightmare Factory camp at nightmarefactoryga.com. So very interesting stuff there. I'm excited to see whether or not it is made as public as the Performance Center, whether we get behind the scenes videos, or whether it'll very much be away from the limelight, working on these new up and coming talents while focusing on Dynamite and Dark outside of that. I don't know. I'd be interested to see it behind the scenes though, to be fair. Now let's go to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, where Dave Meltzer has talked about the reason behind Kevin Owens missing the last 2 shows on Monday Night Raw. So Meltzer says even though he wasn't on the last 2 shows, Owens was at the Raw tapings on July 20th. He had been written into the original shows, but with all the changes made, they decided not to use him. First of all, you have to feel sorry for Kev there, don't you? Traveling to the Performance Center only to be told, we've rewritten it and you're not in the shows anymore, Kev. Sorry, cheers for turning up to the tapings though, mate. And secondly, I want to know what Owens' stuff has been shifted aside for, because, you know, there's various different storylines going on at the minute, and Owens' current path wasn't at the very forefront, was it? He was kind of a peripheral figure at the minute in the United States title picture. Maybe he's been shunted aside slightly because of Apollo Crews' absence, for example. But in my mind, and in my very admittedly biased opinion, Kevin Owens is one of those guys where you can just stick him on TV and make him do anything, and he'll find a way to make it entertaining, whether it's a match, an angle, a silly promo, a serious promo. Anything you want from Kevin Owens, he can kind of deliver. So I don't know if it's the wisest thing to have him on the sidelines at the moment, really, but then again, that is just my opinion, and I'm keen to hear yours. Let me know what you think about Kevin Owens being kind of put on the bench for now in the comments down below. And finally, according to Fightful, there's been a new NXT signing, and apparently he's being compared to an early Jeff Hardy. The man in question is Leon Ruff, who has been used as an enhancement talent on WWE TV during the pandemic and has been getting gradually more exposure as well as part of the NXT brand. And apparently he has been also compared to an early Jeff Hardy as someone that everyone wants to work with, even in an enhancement match, because he's just that good in the ring and really cares about working hard to make others look good. And apparently, again, according to Fightful, there had also been pitches for him to appear on the main roster and 205 Live even before he was put in NXT. So people have had their eyes on Leon Ruff for a while and really recognize how good he is. If you want to learn a little bit more about him, check out the WWE Performance Center YouTube channel, where they've posted a video introducing Ruff after his signing. And Fightful have also confirmed that Leon Ruff is not the only Evolve talent to have signed with WWE, but nobody else has been named at this time. So very intriguing stuff there, and there are already some former Evolve guys on the WWE roster, of course. I mean, obviously people like Drew McIntyre and Johnny Gargano, but there's some guys who really built a name for themselves and were a focal point of Evolve during its history. People like Isaiah Swerve Scott, for example. So maybe they're hoping that Leon Ruff can follow in his footsteps, or maybe even surpass them. There's a lot being said about this guy, and I'm excited to see what happens. So that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching this news video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts on any of these stories in the comment section down below. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.